Hello again. It's Burn Coverage, and we're Burn. I'm Curtis.
And I'm Joel. What is with your intros now?
That's
two in a row. That it's I don't
I'm mixing it up a little bit. You know, just feeling the flow. As we progress, if you watch these segments,
or
you know,
regress.
Yeah, tight ends and defenses and kickers are kind of towards the end of our analysis and drinking. So, yep, things get a little wacky.
That's not true because they are at the end, but all of our research is done mostly sober.
Yeah. Mostly. And mostly sober for us is just a few drinks.
It is DUI for you.
DUI for you because one won't do. Yes, tight end segment. Here we are.
Football.
Week 8 on the football games. And Joel, because I'm obviously out of it, why don't you start with the tight ends?
All right, I'm going to go tight ends. Who I want to start with? Let's go live from London. I'm going to go Travis Kelce going against Detroit Lions. 9:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. There's nothing better in my life nowadays than getting in at 7 a.m. from the bar, sitting down, making scrambled eggs, opening another beer, and having football on 20 minutes later.
Amen.
I love it.
That's America.
God bless you, London. So anyway, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is on pace for his first 1,000-yard season this year. And this week he goes up against a Lions defense that has allowed 5 touchdowns in the past 7 games to tight ends which is good for the 10th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. He hasn't reached the end zone since week 1, but that's because the Chiefs have faced a lot of really good pass rushing defenses so far this season. But the caveat is the Detroit Lions have absolutely no pass rush, so he won't be needed to be in there blocking at all this week. So that I think this really sets up for a gold mine of value. He's going for 5,000 on DraftKings. So yeah, Travis Kelce. I think this is the week that he gets his first touchdown since week 1.
I have nothing against Kelce. He's been consistent, you know, except for the touchdown thing. But the problem is that his price almost necessitates a touchdown. So I'm a little worried about that. And, you know, I think of a guy that's the same price range, actually a little cheaper, Gary Barnidge, who's playing the Cardinals, who are historically not good against the tight end.
I love how you're on the Barnidge train all of a sudden.
Well, I'm just saying, he just keeps doing it.
I know, but it took you long enough to get on.
And this is not a Barnidge segment. You know, play Barnidge if you want. He hasn't disappointed. I'm not advocating Barnidge. I'm just saying that Kelce is a price as a top end tight end, and is not getting the touchdowns to cover.
Yes, but that's the thing. I find I am able to find when the touchdowns are going to come. Mm-hmm. If you've been paying attention week to week.
You're like a touchdown diviner.
I am.
You know,
I really am.
Your stick out and just wave it at Kelce.
Go back and look.
Start shaking.
It's got a pretty good track.
I don't archive this shit.
So yes, I know that he's getting the targets, he's getting the receptions, he's getting the yards, just hasn't gotten the touchdowns. This week against a non-existent Detroit pass rush, this is the week that he finds the end zone because this is going to be an exciting game. I don't usually say that about Kansas City games. I usually dread watching them, but no, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch in London.
I like Kelce. I think he's a great talent. It's always the money, you know. It's the whole Gronk thing. It's always hard to spend the money for him. Last week Gronk was a good guy to spend the money on.
But he's not Gronk. He doesn't live in Gronk's neighborhood. Gronk is always $15 more than Greg Olsen, who's always the next most expensive tight end.
Yeah.
But Kelce, he's going to be top 5. But this is the week you get top 5 production from him. You got someone better?
Where are your inspired picks, Joel? I mean, Kelce is...
First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I last week gave you the perfect lineup. I hope you made money off of it. So if my co-host wants to mock me for my picks, I put a lot of work.
The perfect
time.
lineup if you played my running backs and my tight ends, then you were doing pretty
That's
good.
not true at all.
It is. I had Gurley and Danny Woodhead.
I let you have Gurley, and I had Lamar Miller.
Like you own Gurley rights.
I do.
All right, fine. We'll start calling you the Gurley man. That's good. We got it. You are now the Gurley
You
man.
knocked that one right out of the park.
A little baseball reference.
You win.
You know? There's baseball going on. They
World
told me
Series, fuck the Mets.
to. Yeah, there you go. That was our bird coverage baseball wrap up on the World Series. Yeah, I will go with an unknown just for Joel's sake too.
Unknown because we haven't heard any of these names before.
Yeah, and you might not have heard of this guy, Jason Witten. Sorry, I had to do it. Jason Witten coming in for around about the same price as your Travis Kelce, $5,200 in DraftKings, $5,500 in FanDuel. And whenever you get a close, just for the record, whenever you get like a close DraftKings FanDuel price, that usually means that FanDuel's underpriced, which is rare. Usually DraftKings is the one that underprices their players. So that being said, I like Jason Witten a little more in FanDuel. Playing Seattle, and I know what you're thinking, oh, Seattle's a good defense. Yeah, they are a good defense, and even with their struggles this year, they still produced defense special teams. They still managed to put up points. However, they're not good against the tight ends, and I know many of you watched the Seattle Carolina Panthers game where we saw another great tight end, Greg Olsen, put the finishing touches on Seattle with a beautiful pass from Cam Newton that he caught for the touchdown. And this week we get Jason Witten against Seattle. Seattle's 31st against the tight end. How does that happen? Is it that Bobby Wagner is? We've had this discussion before. And Bobby Wagner gets a lot of tackles, but he lets a lot of people catch the ball so they get tackles. I have no clue how this works out. Really how it works out is that they have fantastic corners, they have great safeties, maybe one day Hall of Fame caliber. I'm not saying that right now, but we can throw that out there. They're certainly Pro Bowl caliber at this point. So who do you throw to? You throw to the tight end. And Jason Witten had 8 targets last week, which is surprisingly a lot. He doesn't, even with Romo in this late stage of his career, he's not consistently getting 8 targets. But Castle's first week gets 8 targets, and he converted that for 6 catches for 73 yards, which is not bad. Now, granted, it doesn't cover 5,200, and I understand your concern, but I have a way of figuring out when tight ends are going to get touchdowns. And this is one of the weeks where Jason Witten's going to get that touchdown.
When's the last time you hit on a tight end?
Last week I hit on 2.
Who?
The week before I hit on 2. Last week I had...
you hit on 2 tight ends last week?
I did. Hey, boom! Did you set that up?
Yeah, I did.
You're the best. You completely raised yourself in my eyes just on that. But if you were wondering, yes, I did. Ladarius Green and Ebron.
Move on.
Yeah, thank you. Witten, as we saw, Castle is still not a good quarterback, even after 12 years. Still inaccurate after all these years. Thank you, Paul Simon. He threw 3 picks last week, so God forbid he's going to be throwing Richard Sherman's way or out towards Cam Chancellor or Earl, what's his
Thomas.
name? Earl Thomas, thank you. So I see a lot of Jason Witten. I see them trying to push the running game after McFadden's big week, but that's not going to stay. Seattle's still good against the run. Jason Witten's probably their only respectable weapon, and the tight end's been good against them before. So if you want to spend the money and you're a Cowboys fan, and you're like, please let me play a Cowboys player that's going to be good this week, it's Jason Witten.
Yeah, I don't know about Jason Witten because Jason Witten is the toughest man in the NFL, hands down, in my opinion. But now with the announcement today or last night that Darren McFadden will be the starting running back regardless of Joseph Randall's health this week. McFadden is was running a lot between the tackles last week, but he's primarily a pass-catching back. And so I think to counteract the Seattle's defense, they're going to have Jason Witten blocking a lot. So I think it's going to be a lot of short passes. They don't want the long passes downfield. It'll be a lot of short passes to McFadden this week. So no, I don't think Witten gets his typical volume.
I think it'll be.
Worries me.
I think it'll be a lot of.
With my pen.
I think it'll be a lot of short passes in general, and I think sure McFadden will have some of those, but it's going to be Jason Witten as well. I don't think he had 8 targets last week. I don't think that's out of the question this week, and especially if they, God forbid, they get anywhere near the red zone. I think you've got to look at Jason Witten there.
I don't know, but there might be a Dez appearance this week. I don't know. I'd rather have Travis Kelce.
You have one more shocker tight end for us?
You read my cards and then you mock me. I do. I'm going to go with Martellus Bennett's Chicago Bears in the divisional battle versus the Minnesota Vikings. So he has 35 targets over his last 3 games. That's 35 targets over 3 games. Quick math, that's almost 12 targets a game. Minnesota has given up the 7th most fantasy points to tight ends this season. And the Vikings have allowed the last 2 tight ends they faced to lead their teams in receiving and to score at least 1 touchdown. And they were none other than Eric Ebron and Travis Kelce. I've heard that tight end name before. So
I've heard that Ebron name before too.
So he is. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game, but I think the scoring is going to come via the tight end. I don't think Forte has a very good game. I think that for the price of $4,900 on DraftKings, $5,700 on FanDuel, with the amount of volume targets that he's getting, Martellus Bennett does not drop passes. He is going to be the red zone threat this week. So, touchdown, calling it.
Actually, I have. First of all, I want to say I don't think Forte is a bad play this week, especially coming up the bye.
Minnesota's a really good defense.
They are, and in fact, I like Martellus Bennett this week, and if I was going to play one of the higher end tight ends, Martellus Bennett would certainly be in consideration, and it's because Minnesota is a good defense. They have great corners. They're probably next to Tennessee, who hasn't really proven it for multiple years. They're doing it this year. But Minnesota was actually good last year against the pass too. They're continuing it this year. I keep thinking of the I know Peyton's not who he used to be, but the Denver game I think was the big limelight game on Minnesota that we saw that they're good against the pass. They're actually good week 1 against the 49ers. I know Kaepernick's terrible, and that Carlos Hyde did his damage.
The only week he has done damage.
But and this is why I bring up the Forte thing is because they're not as great against the run as they are against the pass. They're fantastic against the pass, but they're okay against the run.
They're good against the run. They're not as good as they are against the pass, but no, you can't say they're better than average against the run. So no,
they're slightly better than average.
Minnesota has a very, very underrated defense.
But back to what I was saying, Martellus Bennett is a good play, and I love to play low-end tight ends, but it's hard for me to get away from Martellus Bennett this week. 11 targets last week is huge, especially with Alshon Jeffrey coming back. You would think that, he's going to sap away all these targets that he had been getting each week, but no, he got 11 last week. He's obviously a great red zone threat. And Adam Case, who is their offensive coordinator, who came over with John Fox from Denver. If you remember, Denver loved their tight end, Julius Thomas. Julius Thomas is still performing for Jacksonville now that he's healthy again. But they love their tight end. And
tight end heavy offense.
Yeah, so Martellus Bennett, even though you're going to spend a little bit extra money on him, it's not that much when you consider what you're going to get out of him. I love to play the low-end tight ends, but unless there's I usually do it when there's an injury issue, either to a great tight end, or if they're like splitting time with another tight end and that other tight end's injured, then I'll play that other tight end. But Martellus Bennett is really a special talent, and I feel comfortable playing him. 26th against the tight end, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
And I've got one more. Speaking of former Denver tight ends, I've got one more guy here I want to throw at you. Old man Tamme, Jacob Tamme, coming at you at 2,700 in DraftKings, 4,800 in FanDuel, near the bottom of the barrel price on both sites. Versus my favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, you'll see things like Tampa Bay's good against the tight ends, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I won't play Tamme this week. But once again, it's a little misleading. In fact, Tampa actually gave up 2 touchdowns to the tight end last week. Granted, it's Jordan Reed, who's Kirk Cousins' favorite target, but 2 touchdowns were scored, and they were both red zone targets. Tampa is allowing the most points in the league to offenses, period. And they're on the road to the Falcons, who last year blew them out, scored 56 points on them. One of those was a Devin Hester run back, but still had a great offensive game. And Hankerson will probably be out this week. He's been kind of their de facto 3rd to 4th option, so I think Tamme kind of steps into that role behind the 2 wide receivers and Devontae Freeman. He has had an 8 reception game this year, so he has been involved in some way in the Falcons offense. And he's just a really good cheap price for how productive he has been in the past. And we have seen Atlanta lean on their tight ends before. Granted, it was a Hall of Fame tight end in Tony Gonzalez. But if I'm gonna pinch and I want to spend the lowest amount on a guy that I feel comfortable with, I think you do worse than Jacob Tamme.
He's just too inconsistent for me. It's 1 good game, 3 bad games, and I haven't been able to pick up the trends with Tamme. I really think this is a big Julio Jones game. I think Matty Ice and Julio connection all day long. I appreciate finding a value in tight end, saving the money there so you can stack your roster in other areas. But this is not. I can't recommend this value play at all.
And let me say this, what Joel said. I currently have a ticket with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. I think it's a good play.
Yeah.
And I mentioned another segment. I'll just say it real quick. Last year when they had their big blowout against the Bucs, when they were at home in Atlanta, Matt Ryan had 3 touchdowns, 290. Julio Jones had 180 and 2 of those touchdowns. So certainly a good play against the Bucs, who have given up the most points in the league. That being said, of course there's going to be a lot of attention on Julio Jones. And maybe Roddy White stinks in the conversation here. I don't think he would be a terrible play this week.
I do.
Well, okay, that's fine. But I see Tamme is going to get his usual complement of targets. He's going to get 5 or 6 targets. What he does with those is yet to be seen. But if he gets, let's say he gets 3 of those targets for 30 yards, that's 6 points. And that already is almost triple his price. It doesn't take a lot to pay off what Tamme is. And he is somebody he looks for in the red zone. So
no, there's when the Falcons play at home. That's when you want to find some Atlanta offensive players into your lineup. Matt Ryan has 2 guns in his holster, and they are called Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman. Anyone outside of that is just too risky of a play. It's a hope and a prayer, and I don't want to do either.
Do you ever play anyone risky, or you find a way to spend $100,000 and they just let you?
I played Mike Evans last week. I played Lamar Miller last week.
Those guys are still middle of the road. Do you ever play like a low-end guy? Do you ever get an itch to play somebody in the?
I played Derek Carrier 3 weeks ago, whenever he was good. That
Okay.
1 week he was good.
All right, you played Derrick Henry that 1 week. It was good.
Oh, come on. Like, I don't find value plays all the time. Some week, it's
Are you just all middle of the road all the time?
no, not all the
Okay.
time.
All right.
No,
I'm
I'm a classy guy.
yeah. I'll take what I can get. if it's something cheap and easy, I'm gonna go for it.
Your wife will love to hear that.
Thank you, honey. And I think that was another segment of burnt coverage right
I
there.
think it was.
The tight ends. Tight ends. You put a tight end in front of me, and
What we've learned here is Curtis hit on 2 tight ends last week.
I
And
did.
2 the week before.
And I'm gonna hit on 2 more this week. You can bet on it. I will.
Look out, Danelle.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Joel.
Please come back.
After that, how can you not?